So we're ignorant nerds. Now, let's officialize that.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. I am your co-host, Laserdisc,
And I'm your host, Twitch.
for this inaugural episode of the
Uniting.
the Ignorant Nerdcast.
We're bringing it together. We are Ignorant Nerds Podcast.
We've rebranded. We've rebranded. We are no longer what we were.
It wouldn't make sense to be Epic Podcast anymore.
Because that was all kind of a joke about the name of the place we were casting from.
So
Which is awesome, by the way, everybody. Remember, go check out your local...
go check out Epic Puzzles and Games.
It's a great game store down West Valley. If you're in the area and you need trading cards or board games or tabletop games, go check them out.
But this episode and this whole podcast is actually sponsored by Game Tyrant Gaming Center.
On brand.
We are in here. Like, if you look, you can look out the windows. I don't know if you can see much, but this land center magic is happening out there. See, look,
We are up
he's
here
taking us over there
in North Salt Lake.
at the Game Tyrant Gaming Center. So, yeah, we got Smash Tournament. This place it's popping off.
It is happening.
It's happening. It's happening.
Boy, we are white.
It's popping off.
Popping off?
Pop it.
Popping
Anywho,
off the cusp.
Okay, so what are your topics?
So we can begin by talking about Turbo Kid if you want.
Okay, so we have that as a topic. Let's get our topics out first before we start going. So, time code, you know.
We got Turbo Kid.
Insert time code. There. I'm not gonna do it.
Oh man, as long as you're editing, that's never gonna happen.
That happens in post to post when it goes up on YouTube. I make them do it. I just tell them the time codes and then they figure it out. So we have Turbo Kid.
Uh-huh.
We have Microsoft being garbage.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into that. I haven't discussed much with you yet. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about. Now I can't remember it. I'm sure I'll remember halfway through the podcast and be like, "Oh, we're gonna talk about this now." I'm sure that's what'll happen. My apologies.
So loud.
Plosives.
Oh, you're so loud. At least we got these
Little pop filters that come off because they're way too big for the microphones.
they're too big because of vanity, and they slip off, and then problems happen.
You're so vain.
Probably think this pot is a couch.
What?
Man, I don't even know.
I don't know.
I don't even know.
I don't know. Let's kick this off with Turbo Kid.
All right, so
because I mean, why not?
Laserdisc is gonna take a laser look
Oh man.
at Turbo Kid.
That was never on Laserdisc, by the way, which would surprise you because it looks like it was made in the mid '70s,
All right, so
which is actually before Laserdisc, huh?
Turbo Kid.
That was late '80s, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, no.
I guess this movie is more '80s
Yeah.
retro, not '70s.
Laserdisc started in the very late '70s, but whatever. No
could
one
happen.
cares but me. I admit it.
I care.
Aw.
I have emotion for you.
Aw. But so Turbo Kid,
Hope that wasn't too loud.
if you don't know what it is and you like to watch it, I hope you don't after I'm done here. But if you'd like to,
you're not gonna want to watch it.
it's on Netflix. So if you've got that, you can go
Avoid it.
avoid it. Yes.
So before we start, it's literally a mashup between Kung Fury and Mad Max, the new Mad Max, or even the old Mad Max. Honestly.
So Turbo Kid. So in around the same time, the independent film scene birthed unto us Kung Fury and Turbo Kid, and they were both billed as kind of like post-ironic 80s retro
Apocalypse,
like comedy action. We're not going to talk about Kung Fury.
Can we use that as the slate? Holy cow!
Probably.
It's like, ah!
We're not going to
We're
talk
not
about
get into Kung Fury.
not on this episode because
It's beautiful.
it's amazing,
Can't
and
have that.
that's not what we're here to talk about. No, we're going to talk about. So we're just going
Turbo
to.
Kid.
I'm just going to suffice to say, Kung Fury does exactly what it sets out to do, and
It knows what it is.
It knows what it is.
What it wanted to be.
and it does it well, and it doesn't take too long doing it.
The problem with Turbo Kid is I feel like it knew what it was, but it didn't know how to be it.
And it wanted to be more than it had the potential to be.
So, like, the whole premise of Turbo Kid, post-apocalyptic world, nuclear winters, everything, like,
so
people
like,
are scavenging for water kind of situation.
So imagine like the voiceover from the beginning of Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. That's basically what we get at the beginning of Turbo Kid.
And it's phenomenal.
It's like, we've got a bunch of panning shots of somebody's backyard, like wherever they shot this film, that they dumped some garbage around it.
They got a green screen even though there was a roof.
And
throwback to the room when we talked about that.
Oh, jeez. Anyhow, they panning around, and it's, talking about, the wars and things, and it's just a wasteland now.
Yeah, it's all just, and it's the wasteland.
The wasteland.
Like, it sets it up as if this is the only place of any sort of civilization left.
Yes.
And so you get the impression that no one else in America or the world exists except for this crappy little town in what looks like Minnesota.
And so we are introduced to our protagonist, who I think is a nameless protagonist.
No, he has a name.
Does he?
I feel like
everyone else has a name except him.
I feel like Apple calls him something.
I'm
like
Anyway,
let's do a rough breakdown and just beat it up.
So, okay.
We don't want to tell them the movie. We want to force them to watch this if they're so inclined.
All right. So, we meet our main character, who is this like, he looks like he could be out of One Direction.
He reminds me of
Jonas Brothers.
He reminds me of the kid from Zombieland who's like trying to survive on his own but just can't quite do it. Sort of deal. Like, he's got the means, but he's not that grit-toothed man kind of person.
He's like this like cheery-faced, like rosy-cheeked, curly-haired, like scrawny little kid.
Very similar to Devin.
And
minus the curly hair.
That's our camera.
That's operator.
Our camera. Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
We've upset him, ladies and gentlemen.
Everybody watching is motion sick now. But we meet him, and he is scavenging.
Yeah.
He's basically like walking around in piles of garbage, picking up miscellaneous items that are like, if you were like, you have childhood memories from the 1980s. I remember that.
It reminded me of that scene from the Star Wars movie where Rey is like scavenging for like food coins. It seemed like they wanted to do that, but they didn't know how to like afford crappy props that looked like scavenged materials, which is an issue.
So,
oh crap, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, we have a stage invader.
We have a stage invader.
I thought we changed the locks on that door.
Oh my gosh. I told you to stop calling me, Refresh.
I can't stop calling you.
Oh my gosh.
You have me by a string.
I don't know if they can even hear him.
We'll put in subtitles.
We'll put in subtitles. We'll make up what
closed captioning.
That's what we get to do.
The power of editing, which this movie doesn't have.
Zero.
So basically, what follows, Turbo Kid is like, it's just like a long chain of really on the nose, not subtle at all, direct references to pop culture from the 80s.
Yeah.
And it annoyed me because being a fan of pop culture from the 80s, I could pick them all out and they were all really like half-hearted.
So I won't lie, there wasn't a lot of references that I like immediately picked up on, like if any of them, honestly. I feel like they tried to a bunch of times, but I was just
they tried so hard.
I don't get what.
Like this movie tries so hard, and that's part of why I really didn't like it. But anyway.
Like I understand the Mad Max character.
Yeah.
The cowboy.
Yeah.
And I totally picked up on that, and I get the Turbo Kid, like the idea of the Turbo Kid is referenced just to the 80s itself, obviously.
Our protagonist, he finds his random garbage, and he goes into like town, quote unquote, which is like, by the way, the one running gag this movie had that made me chuckle was that because it's the wasteland, everybody only ever can ride a bicycle. Which
honestly really bothered me.
Because it's like there's no cars, and he like gets on his ET spec bicycle.
It seemed like it was something that they thought was gonna make sense. But then it just ended up being stupid. It looks so dumb on screen.
It felt like they were trying to make it into a running gag. Because throughout the movie, like, there are chase scenes that happen on bicycles.
Which is just... And I feel like that alone was a huge issue that just took you out of the movie because they tried so hard to do these campy jokes throughout, and they were just poorly executed.
There was so much setup and no execution at all.
Zero amounts.
And, like... And...
It has no... So the only saving grace in this movie is the music.
Oh,
the
music
is
great.
All I could think of was Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. That it knew what it wanted to be, you said.
It almost sounded like direct tracks from Stranger Things. Honestly,
yes,
like I'm not gonna lie, there was multiple times where I was like, "You sure this is your own music? Like, is there a way to confirm that you haven't pirated this song from like the most popular Netflix series in history or something?" I don't know if that's true. I'm making that up.
But and let's talk for a moment. Let's talk perhaps at length about the gore in this film.
Oh, so the gore, it
felt like this was also supposed to be a joke.
But like about Kill Bill almost gore.
Yeah, so it's like you have fight scenes where like people like are swinging swords at each other, and the swords are just going through the human body like it's made out of butter.
Yeah,
and
literally, like the one dude that gets chopped into quadrants.
Yeah, and like every time someone is like dismembered in any way or like stabbed,
it's
liters and liters and liters of blood come out.
And it's always that slow like death too.
Yeah.
Unless they've been beheaded. Even the guys that get beheaded, they're always like, "Wait, am I?" And then but yeah, liters just.
And it's like, I can understand how that can be like a joke and it can be funny, but that kind of joke wears out quickly unless you have the chutzpah to make it work. And
like Kill Bill did.
And I'm afraid to say that this movie was not directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Nope.
So it really...
The thing that was, in my opinion, for the gore, the thing that was funny to watch was the continuity errors with the gore itself. You would watch someone literally get waterfalled with blood until they are red from tip to toe, and then the next scene. Yeah, the next scene. We're talking like a jump cut. Not like we're like a legit jump cut from like second to second, where it's like they're just doused, and then it's just like a couple lines to like, show that they were once covered in blood, but most of it drained off. Like this,
it just all dripped off.
That's not how blood works. I apologize. It cakes, it mats, it stays. It's blood.
It turns into scabs.
Yeah, even though it's not your blood, you get to pick off someone else's scabs from your body.
And like
it's like the skin from pudding.
Like I don't know. It's like it tried so hard, which honestly is why I feel so strongly about this movie, about how bad it is.
Yeah.
Because when you're trying hard, there needs to be something like that sticks. Otherwise, it just becomes sad.
Well, and I feel like you can't do every trope or campy thing, and they have so many.
They wanted to do all of it.
They wanted to do every single one of them. Like you look at Kill Bill, it has the one thing in there that's the over the top thing, and that's the blood action scenes.
Yeah.
Like everything else is very Quentin Tarantino, but nothing is like ridiculous except for the gore and action scenes, and that's what it was.
And it's like,
this one's like gore and action, super 80s retro, bicycles for freaking who knows why, robot people.
Like the bicycles, other than it trying to be like funny with it, the bicycles are legit just like another 80s reference.
Yeah.
To like movies like It or movies like E.T. where you have all of the kids that like friends in the cul-de-sac riding around on their bikes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, an evil like murderer that shoots saw blades from his wrist, riding a bicycle after like a kid that's wearing like an NES Power Glove on one hand.
Which is really frustrating
And-
because that enemy, that bad guy, I loved. I loved his character. I loved the actor behind him, how he portrayed it. I thought it was really good. But every time they put him on the bike, it took that away from that character.
Even when they like zoom in really close and you can see like his eyes through the holes in the
Well,
mask.
because I like that because he's portraying. I felt like he did a really good job portraying that manic sidekick to the Overlord.
Yes.
That's just the bruiser, and they did a really good job. But then they put him on a bicycle all the time, and it was just like, well, now he's just an idiot. You know, like he's no longer because he's got it's like a cool outfit. You know, he's got the spiked shoulder pads.
He's
very,
it's like Mad Max hockey armor.
yeah, and I really liked that. Then he's like, bring, bring, we're going to catch you. He doesn't speak. He's a silent antagonist, which.
Oh, I'm so glad he never talked.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, jeez.
Like I said, I really liked that character. And in all honesty, I liked all the actors. I thought the acting never... It felt like the acting never was the thing that pulled me away from
The acting never
show.
felt bad. The script usually did, though.
Oh, the script was derpy.
How about when like Mad Max Indiana Jones man's like his whole gang just gets killed in the background?
Yeah. I like that at the very last fight scene, they have like this ridiculously long moment that's like, this is going to happen because you're being murdered by people right now. You don't have time for this. But let's talk about Apple.
Okay, so Apple, for the sake of discussion and people watching.
We're not talking like Apple computers or Apple phones. This is a name of
So-
a character in Turbo Kid.
The protagonist is like, you know, doing his thing, wandering around, and he happens upon like this
Girl.
girl that's like, imagine if you took
Heroin.
what was her name from Harry Potter?
Oh,
frick.
Love.
Yeah, Luna.
Imagine Love Kid or
Imagine
Love
if you took
Joy.
Luna Lovegood
Lovegood, not
and
Lovejoy.
and just gave her an IV drip of caffeine
all the time. Like
all
that's,
the time. That's who this is.
And it
she,
wasn't
like-
a terrible character. It was a unique character.
It was a unique character, but it's like
Definitely a unique choice
She-
to go with in a movie that already sucked.
she like walks up and like wraps what is unmistakably like a homing beacon around the wrist of the main character, who then like
Which is also unmistakably just one of those hair slap pad things with a ball on it that bleeps colors. I don't know. Did you ever wear one of those on your wrist, Devin? You remember those little things you put around your wrist, slap them, they're like, that's all this thing was. Literally all this thing was. And he's like, how do I get it off? He's like, unsnap it.
he runs back to his little hideout, and you're like, oh, that's a tracking thing, isn't it? Like he's gonna go to his hideout, his secret hideout, and she's gonna get there because he's got a tracker on his
Well,
wrist.
the thing that cracks me up about it is the camera doesn't take any precautions to actually hide that it's just a slappy wrist bracelet thing. It takes, because you can see the two sides
See, but that's-
overlapping each
That's
other.
part of what I was talking about earlier. This movie is just, it felt like it was hoping that it could cram enough things from people's childhood memories into the movie that it would make people trick
just
them
be nostalgic
into
almost.
thinking that it's a good movie.
Kind of like Legend of Zelda.
Now.
Oh, that's the thing I want to talk about. Let's
Yes,
look at
yes.
Microsoft.
We have to finish with the laser look before we talk about
Yeah.
stuff that Twitch hates.
The things I think suck.
But yeah, so Apple, she like shows up in his apartment. Well, I'm gonna call it an apartment. It's his hideout, and she's basically like,
It's his swing set.
"I am your best friend forever now." And he kind of like, it doesn't take long for Stockholm syndrome to set in,
It really doesn't.
because he's like can't be older than 18.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say,
he's-
which is almost fine because it seemed like in the movie he was at like a vulnerable age where
Like he was a teenager. He lived alone.
his parents die when he's like 5, right in front of his face.
Like
His dad gets chopped into fourths, and his mom gets a circular saw through the chest and then golf clubbed in the head. So, I mean, this kind of stuff, it can mess a kid up
And
a
it's
little.
like,
Not a lot, just a tiny little.
Here's this like kind of cute girl that just appeared in his life as if he was an anime protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that it's too far out of the question that he tries to make this work. And she comes with him on his bicycle to go scavenging.
However, I do love his whole demeanor towards her the whole time, because it's almost like he's awkward, but he also wants to be that lone wolf kind of person.
He's like,
I loved it. He's like, maybe you stay here, and I'll go alone. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'll come with you. He's like, wait, what? Like, I thought that was a lot of fun. It didn't save the movie by any stretch of the imagination.
It was fun chemistry, but I don't know, man. It kind of bounced off for me.
Yeah.
I was too busy not being fooled by all of the nostalgia bait. I was too like.
This movie is legit a clickbait movie for nostalgia done bad. The one thing I'm going to point out about the really like not subtle references that they did in this movie was Apple gets a weapon that's a broken baseball bat with a gnome,
with a garden gnome taped to the top of it. And when she is given this, she raises it above her head and says, "This is my gnome stick." And for all of you in the audience that don't know what I'm talking about, there's a infamous scene in the late 80s camp horror film Army of Darkness, where the main character Ash has been teleported back in time, and he's got a shotgun, and he shoots somebody's like medieval sword in half with it, and then he raises his gun above his head and he says, "This is my boomstick." Do you see what I'm saying here?
Wow.
Yeah.
So I will the funny thing about this kind of stuff is that I'm almost 10 years older than Jason. And he knows more about the era that I was born in than I do.
Yeah, the guy named Twitch is older than the guy named Laserdisc.
Which is a real treat.
Don't make eye contact.
Making eye contact.
Don't make eye contact. Oh, there's like windows. It's creepy, man.
Yeah, I don't even know the backdrop. I don't know if there's anybody. Anywho.
So I liked the method of fixing Apple.
Okay, so first of all, let's before we get on how we fixed her, because that's her second injury. Keep in mind. So Apple is a robot. She's a friendship robot.
We don't find that out until I think 2/3 of the way through the movie.
Well, until she gets shot in the heart.
Yes.
And nothing happens, right?
Yeah, like
keep that in mind. Because that is a viable point in this movie.
So,
that she gets shot in the chest.
Can I just talk about?
And it's like, I got shot in the chest and I'm fine.
I was ready to be surprised at this movie when Apple got shot with an actual gun, because I was like, wow, is there like any sense of consequences in anything that happens in this movie?
No.
And like she's out for a while, long enough that you think she might just be dead, and the movie didn't even make a big deal about it. But then she just gets back up, and you're like,
she just like recharges her batteries or whatever.
What?
Because like they're riding their bike home, and she like just kind of like passes out for a second because her flux capacitor got damaged or some crap.
Yeah,
so that's her first injury that is non-life threatening.
Yeah, she gets shot, and it's like, my bioreactor, and I'm losing hearts. She's got like it's just adorable how crappy it is.
Like it was a sticker.
She's got like a thing on her wrist that's got like legit Legend of Zelda hearts
like
on
the
it
NES
that are slowly draining. I'm like,
so that's her first scene where she takes damage. The second time she gets injured, her head gets lobbed off. But never fear.
yeah. So
there's a sex bot in the grave that he can tape her head to.
Oh man, so
and that's the truth.
When they figured out that she
I'm not even lying.
when they figure out that she's like slowly dying, they find out that there's a robot cemetery that they need to go to, and they're almost there when Apple's head gets cut off, right? and the guy falls down a cliff, and he like picks her
There's a
up.
bunch of radioactive fog, which exists.
Oh yeah, no, it's like such a bad visual effect for the fog. But he's like carrying this like girl's decapitated robot head through this cloud of poisonous fumes.
Yeah.
And they get to the robot cemetery, which you're wondering what that looks like. Legit?
It's just a bunch of mannequins they threw in a pile.
Yeah, it's just
no trying.
it looks like frat boys got rid of evidence. And it's like he just walks up to like
One of them.
a lady mannequin body that happens to not have a head on it, and he just like straight up just wraps
this
duct
head.
tape around the neck.
And he's like, Apple, wake up. But then he passes out and is like, oh, and dies. What do you think? But don't worry, Cowboy Max Mad comes and saves him.
And this is another one of the very like on the nose references, because in Road Warrior Mad Max 2, there's an instance where Mad Max has like a very life-threatening like biffit, and he wakes up and like the camera is like above his head and he's like hanging off the edge because there's this guy that has a helicopter.
Yeah.
And it's like shot for shot they recreated that scene where he wakes up on the cowboy's bicycle.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yes.
So he wakes up on this cowboy's bicycle and he's like, where's Apple? And Cowboy's like, she's dead. And he's like, oh no.
Oh no.
Worry not, ladies and gentlemen, because 5 minutes later she walks into town, all pink and sex robot-y.
And she's like, you didn't wait for me. He's like, you were... And she's like, no, silly, you didn't wait to start the fight.
The best part about this whole situation is like all throughout this movie there's this weird sexual tension between Turbo Kid and Robot Chick, which is
It's kind of one-sided.
Well, they kiss in the end.
Yeah, but it's kind of one-sided.
Well, because she's a robot?
Yeah, like she
that
doesn't
makes
have the
sense.
capacity to exhibit sexual tension because she's just a friendship unit.
So the end of the movie comes around, which is the final fight scene, which is also underwhelming, other than the gratuitous amounts of gore and chopped in half bodies landing on people that are standing up and walking around.
Yeah, so there's like...
Which was just...
So like a person gets blown in half and then like the top half of this person lands on
And then,
top
like,
of somebody else. And
I can't see because I don't know what's on my head. What happened?
And then like that joke happens and nobody laughed at it because it wasn't a very well executed joke. And then
or
like,
even a good idea. For
5 minutes later in this fight scene, another person gets blasted in half.
It happens about 7 times because 2 people by the end of this fight have like 3 or 4 bodies just...
No, it's just one person has 2 torsos stacked on their head.
No, there's 2 people, I swear.
Well,
Either
way, it's
regardless,
like...
it was not a good joke.
And then they did it again.
And again. So going back to Apple, though, we get towards the end of the movie, and the fight's going well.
The fight's going well. Everything's going well.
Turbo Kid
what
and
could
Apple
possibly
have
go
just
wrong?
Kissed, you know,
Mwah.
he just kissed a talking cell phone that walks, essentially.
It's like a Tamagotchi.
And then all of a sudden, a pistol
Yeah,
shoots her in the back.
the second time in this movie that a gun has been fired, it has been fired at the person that isn't actually a person again.
And this time,
She gets shot in the back, and this time,
she is dead. Like, officially dead. She'll have that last, like, Turbo Kid moment, you know, where they say their dying words. But she's dead.
yeah.
Which is really weird, because earlier in the movie, it didn't do anything. So I'm just curious if there's, like, a silver bullet for robots that, like...
Well, the person that shot her, spoiler alert,
he has
is also a robot.
That makes bullets strong. He knows how to curve the bullet.
No, he knows specifically how to kill robots.
Oh,
that must be
yeah.
it.
You don't shoot them in the chest, you shoot them in the back.
Like you shoot them like in the back around like a large section of not very vital organs,
Yeah.
rather than up here.
Where all the vital organs are at, which is why we have a rib cage and a sternum for protection.
For
Those
protection.
rib cages.
And the final insult for the really badly done nostalgia bait is that the villain the big bad guy who's like this, he lords over everything, sitting down in his chair while his like henchmen do everything for him. And he's like kind of calm and collected and in control of the situation. He gets blown up. Or he gets shot with like the one-hit kill laser.
Oh yeah, Super Fister.
NES Power Glove. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't kill him, and you're like, why doesn't it kill him? And the whole movie, he's got an eye patch on. And
it explains why he has an eye patch.
Yeah, like the main character's mom, back when he was a kid, shot. I want to talk about that for a hot second, because
where did she get a crossbow?
How did she get over there? Because she was on the complete opposite side.
Which is a really fun thing to think about, because like
it's like
for instance, it's as if Devin was the bad guy, and Jason's the mom. And I'm the dad. I've been chopped into fours.
And in the time that's taken, I've like run around, gotten a crossbow. The henchman's done nothing to stop this.
Things, who was like the Hulk of the movie.
Yes.
And then she's like, let's make it interesting.
Like the guy gets shot in the eye, but okay, so you're like, that's why he has an eye patch. But no, after he gets shot with the laser gauntlet thing, he takes the eye patch off, and he's like
a T-100.
He's a T-800. Oh, look, he's got like the red eyeball and the metal skull. Oh, don't you? Boy, do you remember Terminator? Boy, I remember Terminator. I love Terminator.
Makeup thing, because that's what happens, and then he pulls all of his skin off. not in Turbo Kid and Terminator. Doesn't he? Yeah, he does that.
No, just it gets burned off.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It still comes off, but it's like that exact same this part of the face, and he's like, you know.
But then the kid like kicks a mini nuke at the guy's feet and shoots it instead, and it blows him up. And it makes a geyser. That's where the water was.
That's how water works.
And now everyone will be saved because they have drinking water.
So the best part about this, and I need to read you this text. So Laserdisc was texting me the entire time throughout this movie, just confused. It's so confused. Okay, where was the last one? Because the last text about the geyser was the greatest. So this is what happens. Oh, because the bad guy has laser breath.
Yes.
He holds his arms out like this, which makes whatever amount of sense, because the laser forms in his mouth, but it also forms a foot in front of his mouth. At a ball.
For context, earlier in the movie when we discover that Apple is a robot, the main character is like, "Can you shoot lasers from your mouth?"
She's like, "No." And
then this guy shoots lasers from his mouth.
So perfect, right? So this is Laserdisc's text to me during that scene. Laser breath recharges fusion glove that then shoots mini nuke and makes water shoot from the ground. And I wrote back, logic at its finest. Like, this was the whole movie, just things that made no sense,
and it's not like
happening,
and it wasn't fun. Like stuff like that doesn't make any sense can happen, but if it's fun,
yeah, you have to like fully commit. It's as if, I don't know if you've ever like tried acting, like actual acting on stage or thing, but there's a couple kind of people that act. There's three types of people that can act. That try to act. There's actors, people that know how to just give it all and give up life and act. There's the people that just can't act, but they're still acting. And then there's that weird middle person that is very passionate about acting. When he's alone or she's alone, they can really give it their all, but once they're up on stage, they're like afraid, and they hold back a little bit, and they're nervous, kind of coy, but they're still trying to give it their all kind of deal. That's what this movie was. There was that weird kid that was like, he could be a good actor if he wasn't so afraid of acting, kind of deal. Like, it's
like
just,
so.
Oh my god!
Like here's the real breakdown between this movie and Kung Fury, which I think we will have to take a laser look at in a future episode.
Oh, I agree. We can absolutely take a laser
Kung
look at
Fury was like, it was inspired by retro 80s, but it never was like trying to directly be something that already existed.
Yeah,
and
it was very much
it
its
committed
own thing.
100% to its jokes. Like it executed its jokes so well, and it's less than an hour long.
Yeah.
Turbo Kid was
What,
always
an hour and
trying.
20 minutes.
It was
too?
like an hour and a half. It was always trying to be something it wasn't, which is to say, trying to be a movie that had already happened. Like, oh, this now it's being Mad Max. Now it's being this. Now it's being that.
Whatever.
And it did not commit to its jokes. And like again, it took an hour and a half getting to the point, so it didn't get to the point.
And the point just
And
really
they
wasn't
had
good.
all of this like very weak plot that they were trying to go with. Like Kung Fury has a very simple plot that isn't the main purpose
Not
of
the main
Kung
purpose
Fury.
of the film. No, the plot.
It happens, but it's not like they never like have this the like 5-minute conversation between main characters
the
to
plot in
develop
Kung
their
Fury
backstory.
Is background.
Yeah.
The plot is secondary to the film, and the film is the main point because it's just itself.
Yeah.
It's over the top. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
It's every man's fantasy. You know, like who doesn't want to get bit by a cobra and struck by lightning and then travel through time to kill Hitler? I can't name anybody that doesn't want. You want that, right, Devin? Like everybody should want to be bitten by a cobra and struck by lightning to travel through time to kill. That's just the thing. That's just what it is. But this movie, this Turbo Kid, it didn't. It was bad.
But that is our laser look at Turbo Kid.
Turbo Kid. All right, so we got 30 minutes left. We're gonna do
Take it away,
a
Twitch.
little segment called "Things I Think Suck."
Someday, years from now, there'll be a graphic for that, like an animated graphic with sound effects.
Well, yeah, it won't just be me going like this and hoping you can use your imagination. It'll actually work. So, I'm going to talk about one thing that I think sucks and have for a very long time not understood the hype behind this because all of the games that I've played behind this have been garbage.
Okay.
And this is my favorite part.
Okay.
Everyone's going to be upset. The Legend of Zelda sucks. I am sorry. If you disagree, it's because you grew up with a crappy game and you didn't know any better. Let's go to Ocarina of Time real quick.
That is a bad place to start.
Oh,
No.
Great place to start.
No, see here, let me tell you why that's a bad place to
It's
start.
the most popular one.
Exactly.
That's why we start there.
Why is it the most popular one? Because it came out at the right time. The optimum amount of people were exposed to it when they were in their formative years.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing.
And it's one of the worst ones.
I am not going to say that these games were not good at the time. But this game
they were revolutionary.
in particular
In
should
the 90s.
no longer be labeled one of the best games ever made. Because it should be labeled the best game made in its time. Because it is no longer anywhere near one of the best games ever made. The controllers are janky. The world is open and empty. The story is so mundane. The rock people are starving. They live in a freaking cliff. Why are they starving? You literally have to go help people that are too stupid to eat.
Woof.
That is the first mission in the game.
Come on,
like
Twitch,
the
let's-
Lana's milk. These games suck. They are terrible. You walk around in this janky world as an 8-year-old because that's the hero of time. You travel backwards in time by the end of the game, which makes the whole point of the game completely pointless because you could have just done that never and none of this would have happened and everything would have been fine. It's bad. It is so... And I won't lie. Again, it was probably great at its time. At the
So
time.
which one are you thinking of? Are you thinking of Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time? I always get them mixed up. Are you talking about
Ocarina of Time.
the one that's 3 day long? The one that's 3 days long or the other one?
Whatever one. I know it's Ocarina of Time. I've never...
Do you take the Master Sword and then become a teenager?
Yes.
Okay. I
Yes.
think that's Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
If,
Majora's Mask even more ridiculous.
if you're gonna take a dump on one of the two, start with Majora's Mask.
I don't know enough about Majora's Mask.
It is
I
an
read the manga
exercise.
for it.
It is an exercise in futility
Really.
because you have 3 days to do everything. Don't get it in time. Go back in time to the beginning and try again and hope you've memorized the levels enough.
Which once again makes zero sense Because why not just go back in time to begin with and stop this little piece of crap dude, little guy that walks around like a freak, and just kill him before he is born. I mean, but that's the problem with every time traveling.
Time travel, tell you
But
what,
I haven't
man.
played Majora's Mask. Like I said, I've only read the manga. The other one that I have played that everybody loves is Wind Waker. And oh my God, it is garbage.
Now, okay.
Oh.
I will defend Wind Waker.
You may try.
So here's what I will say about it.
Okay,
The travel mechanic is garbage.
absolutely.
The game is not.
Mm.
The
So,
game that happens in between all of the sailing is a very good game.
it's better than Ocarina of Time. I'll give it that.
What
The story itself.
What does it do wrong?
Well, first of all, like with the traveling system, we'll agree on that. The ship sailing. First off, why is that world so big? Because they want to make you feel like the game is big. That's the only reason. There's no reason to make the sailing that ridiculous. The only reason is to make people think, oh, it's a really big game. Nintendo they didn't do a good job. They cheated.
I mean,
That's called cheating.
You can get fast travel.
Oh, no, I know you can, and you absolutely should, because there's absolutely no reason to try and sail anywhere. But then they put mini games in the sailing,
Yeah.
which are so dumb. Like, they're not even fun dumb. It's not even kind of a thing like...
Yeah, but
like
most people ignored those.
Well, with Kingdom Hearts, when you're traveling, the mini game was cool in your jelly ship. It was actually like a challenge. You're like, oh crap, we're going here. Gotta pump up my jelly ship. I gotta actually like do stuff. This one was like, don't hit a fish, or don't run into a barrel or something. It was just, and then talking to the fish. First of all, no reason, zero reason,
No, your map.
no point
You gotta fill out your
in
map.
talking to him. Well, yeah, that's
No,
what
you
I'm
gotta
saying.
fill out your map.
No point in talking
You
to
can't
him.
just have the map. You have to buy food, find fish, feed fish, get part of map.
Talk about the stupidest side quest ever. Round of applause for Laserdisc right here. He just did it.
Like, already I think you would hate the game so much less if they had just made the map autofill.
100%.
You go into a new square, you get on a new island, bam, it's in your map.
Well, and that's another issue. Is like the map is enormous, and you've got to travel to these little islands that are like as big as a nickel to do one thing. But they're always on the opposite side of where you're actually supposed to go. And so it's like you get there, you throw a rock at something or whatever, and then you immediately get back on your ship to sail for another 15 minutes.
On that subject, I am not defending how long it takes, but I will defend the idea of making you go to the opposite ends of the map in a game like that, simply because that's all along the way you have the opportunity to be like, oh, sweet, what's happening on this island? Oh, this is a cool little island. Oh, check out that island.
And I guess that's true, except for the islands that you see are so far out in the distance. It almost
Yes, because
seemed
there's
like,
too much ocean.
yeah.
Shrink
Had they
everything
shrink
down.
the ocean down, I wouldn't have been as annoyed.
Make it 2 minutes, absolute maximum, from top corner to bottom corner, opposite end.
And the only reason I know it's upwards of 10 minutes is because when I was recording for YouTube, we had multiple episodes that were just us sailing. Straight sailing.
Tune in next time, and we might get to the island.
When we sail, I'm not kidding you. Like, there were actual episodes where it was just straight minutes of us sailing, trying to think of things to BS about. Because there's only so much you can BS about on a boat that doesn't talk except for cutscenes. Like, if he were to, like, make every now and then witty banter, you know, it might have...
But they can't do that because the game, everything has to like stop moving when someone talks to
Yeah.
you.
Except for what's his nuts beetle. Hello, thank you. Oh my god! If you're not gonna put voices in a game, don't do that. Don't make the computer try to talk. Like, I hated Beetle. Another thing, and I also did not like what's her face.
Which one?
The girl that ends up being not Zelda, but basically Zelda.
Oh no, she is Zelda,
Is she-
the pirate captain.
Oh, that's right. She's officially Zelda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hated that. That was stupid. Why?
What now? What is the odds on that?
Yeah.
The captain of the pirate ship that happens to be the impetus for you going
for
on this
whatever
adventure.
reason, was Men in Black flashed, and now she can't remember her past until she's locked in the basement.
She's Zelda.
And there's another thing, like,
But the plot,
she can't remember she's Zelda, but she can remember being the other chick once she's Zelda. And then why do we lock her in a basement? We just lock her and leave her.
Yep.
It's just like, what?
People that try and tell you that the plot is a strong suit of these games, you just need to ignore. Because, like, eventually, after all of the Twitch, like, having a hernia, you get down to, like, the grassroots of the real reason besides nostalgia why people...
I was going to say the real reason.
Besides nostalgia, the real reason why people like these games is the core grassroots gaming mechanics. And I admit, yes, I will fully agree. Those mechanics are jank AF on the N64.
Oh, yes.
But I think Wind Waker passed and...
so like Twilight
Princess, Skyward Sword.
Breath of the Wild now.
Breath of the Wild. I think they all have really good, solid mechanics and rarely entertaining mechanics.
About Breath of the Wild, so I haven't played it, so I cannot say that it's a good or a bad game.
If you're talking about the weapon durability, they last a lot longer than you think.
No. I've watched that actually a lot, and I've become a little bit more okay with that. The thing that really pisses me off about this game is that it won Game of the Year. And I've asked a lot of people if this was not a Legend of Zelda game, was it good enough to win Game of the Year?
Everything about how it played and how it looked was exactly the same, except
it wasn't Zelda.
It wasn't made by Nintendo. It wasn't a Legend of Zelda game. I've only played a very little bit of it, but I think you are very right and astute to say that
it wouldn't have won it.
It wouldn't have. But
I don't know. What does the audience think? Have you played? Has Devin played it at all? I don't know if he's even played it. Oh, he has. He hasn't played it. Okay. So I mean, we can't even get his opinion on this. But I don't. I mean, and like I said, about 85% of people have agreed with me on that. Like,
awards like that are always a popularity contest, though.
But the thing is now Nintendo knows, like, we just make the same pickles and people will buy the pickles. You know, that's literally what happened.
Breath of the Wild isn't the same pickles. It's still a Legend of Zelda game, and it still probably has many of the problems you're talking about, albeit to a very reduced extent.
Oh, yeah, and from what I've seen, the gameplay itself is actually very well fleshed out. There's not a whole lot of issues with mechanics or anything like that, and it looks fine.
But, like, Nintendo's always known this. Since 1999, I don't know what significance that has. I just made that up. They have known that they have a short list of breadwinners that they can keep stamping.
Forever, and
they have been innovating marginally with those games, like Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. Have definitely taken them further than where they were in the 90s.
But in the same token, it's like, what's the best way I feel like I can explain this? With Mario Odyssey, it looks fun, it looks fine, but it looks like every other Mario game just in a
And that's the thing with Nintendo breadwinners. If you didn't enjoy the old ones, you're probably never going to be ensnared by the new ones.
Exactly. It's like making cookies, but every now and then you add food coloring, it seems like. Or instead of chocolate chip cookies, you make mint chocolate chip or white chocolate chip or butterscotch.
Let's say that, like, Mario World on the NES was flour, and Mario Odyssey is now we've gotten to the point of adding chocolate chips to our cookies instead of just having flour.
That's a good point. I like that, actually. That's a good analogy, because that's all it feels like they're doing. They're just doing this same thing with small subtle differences.
Like,
from what I've seen,
other companies will be like, oh, we had better go straight to chocolate chips and cookies. But Nintendo knows that they can sell flour for a while, then they can sell flour and eggs for a while, then they can sell,
flour, eggs, and maple syrup.
They can sell dough for a while, and then they can sell, like, cookies without chocolate chips for a while.
It's infuriating to me to watch a character that I've hated for so long win Game of the Year when there were games like Horizon Zero Dawn that were out. Games that were brand new.
See, and
we're breaking grounds.
That's the thing.
Trying new things.
The market.
And Zelda wins.
Oh.
It's frustrating, man. There's so many good games out there that are being developed, but no, because Nintendo's got their freaking spoon in everyone's bowl.
No, I
they're
feel
able
your
to give
pain.
it to them.
I feel your
And
pain.
it's just ridiculous.
But it's
For a game that really doesn't do anything new or innovative
so
ever.
here's the point I would just remind you of. Award shows really don't mean that much.
They really don't, but it does to Nintendo because it is a confirmation to them that they can keep making Zelda games.
Oh, I mean, the
And
money they've made off it already was a confirmation.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely. And that's the thing. Even Camera agrees. Not in his head. He's like, yeah, just the money itself is confirmation. Like, it's... No.
Oh, he disagrees.
Oh, he disagrees. Okay. It's still confirmation that everybody's going to keep buying it.
I mean, I don't think they were looking for that confirmation. I think as soon as
I don't think they were either, but they have it.
I think as soon as they saw like the reaction for when they first even started to hint that they were making this game, I think they knew Zelda is still going to be a breadwinner.
The thing that frustrates me is, like, at least change up the whole story. Stop making it about Princess Zelda. Stop making it about Ganon. Stop making it about
But that's
doing the same thing.
That's
You can
completely-
create new enemies
I'm-
and keep Link there.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that freshening things up like that would be good for everyone, but you're completely misinterpreting the market share that they're looking at,
Yeah.
which is they've really liked everything so far and very little has changed. We don't want to upset them.
Yeah.
And maybe there is more artistic integrity than that involved in making these games, but I think up at the top of Nintendo, the people in suits, I don't think so. I think they know very well that if they don't want to step on too many toes, because even though like it would upset some people, but then all of a sudden maybe more people would become interested, they don't want to take that chance.
Like, I just can't imagine being a game developer for any Zelda game after the first 4. Because it's like, all right, well, we're
The
going to throw
first
the
4?
water temple in there. All right, yeah. Probably throw a couple of the other same temples in there. All right, cool. We'll change up some of the characters. Oh, like Link? No, I mean like some of the people we accidentally run into along the way. That makes sense. The only reason the layout will look different is because, it's a new system, graphics are a little bit better. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like that's how it goes. Except for with Breath of the Wild. I'm going to give Breath of the Wild the benefit of the doubt because it is a very different, but it's still the same.
So I feel like
game.
I feel like what you so it's very similar to what you're saying, but it's a stiff in a suit says, here is your bulleted list of things that you must do, and then actual like the people that are coding and doing the conceptual art and all that, they're in this industry because they want to be in this industry. Like, this isn't an industry, you can't get a career path in this industry without passion. And I feel like they get that bulleted list and maybe their heart sinks because they can't be creative.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, let's be as creative as we can be within these constraints.
And I agree with that, and I really do. I really think that's a very real idea that's probably taking place within Nintendo. It's so frustrating to see, at least as somebody that is not a Nintendo fanboy or fangirl or whatever, because I can see the potential in these kinds of characters.
There's so much potential for Nintendo IPs that's, I think if it ever is, it's going to be years before it's tapped, just because the market that they're looking for with these intellectual properties is started playing the NES, and I've been on that IV drip since then.
Ever since then.
Somebody topped my bag off so I don't run dry. And you know what? If you're a person that really likes these games and like you really enjoy Odyssey and all that, there's nothing to be ashamed of, I don't think. Like, I don't think that we can point our finger at people that really, really liked Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and say that they're the problem. I think the stiffs in suits that are afraid that
Change.
Yeah, they're the problem, because I think even the people that have been there since the NES and are just like, give me more, please, would appreciate if things changed up a little bit. Like, they wouldn't look at it and say, oh, I don't like it, I'm not going to try it because it's something new, because
They would honestly look at it and be like, it's Nintendo, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah.
Because they're that hard. And that's fine. That's fine. Be that. I can't do it. Sorry. But that is all the time we have.
Well, I am your co-host Laserdisc,
I am your host, Twitch.
signing off the inaugural episode of
Ignorant Nerd Podcast. See you guys
Good
later.
Night.
Oh, well, you know. Oh, man, standing up sure sucks. I'm at 4% battery life.
That's enough.
That's enough.